In the last video in this short series, working with the speech bubbles as we trace around them, I showed you the pen tool, I showed you the anchor point tool, and I showed you the direct selection tool. I didn't go into much detail, I just wanted to point those three tools that are used the most. Pen tool, anchor point tool, and the direct selection tool. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can put these things to use. So we're going to move over. I'm holding down my space bar, which allows me to grab my layout and move it around the screen. So you can see here I'm moving around. Allows me to position this part of the sketch in view. Using my pen tool here, got it selected. I got my color and my stroke set to magenta. Everything's largely the same as the last video. I'm going to go ahead and click again on either a corner or a straight line. We'll start down here and I'm just going to work my way around. I am just clicking with my mouse. I'm not holding anything down. I'm just approximating by following this guide. I have just set 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually 6. So I got 6 points here, and they're connected by these 5 lines or paths. So now we have a little bit of an issue. Things are changing on us. We're going to go around and trace around the outside here with the pen tool. So the easiest way to do this is I'm going to set a point right about here. I'm going to hold down my shift key. Again, shift allows me to constrain things to horizontal, diagonal 45 degrees, or vertical. Holding down shift. Going to hold down my shift key, click right before the curve. Things moved up there a little bit. Let me get those back in view. All right, I am going to hold down my shift key and click. One click. Now, like we did on the other shape, the other speech bubble, I'm going to click beyond the curve to the other side where it straightens out again. And while I'm holding down my mouse button, if you remember, I'm going to go ahead and hold down shift and drag up. And you can see it's starting to follow the curve. Now, it's not perfect at all, and we can tweak things as we go forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get it like that. There we go. Now, remember how I said you could grab certain parts of, you could have temporary access to tools? We have here the Option key. The Option key allows me to use the Convert Anchor Point or Anchor Point tool. I can click on that freely, and when I do so, it becomes selected. And I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and I'm going to drag. Now you see, unlike the last video where our handles on either side of the point, they were equal in length, this is moving freely on its own, independent of the other handle on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and get it in shape like that. Now we got a little bit of an issue here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily, I'm going to select my Command key on my keyboard. I'm going to hold that down. And I now am using the direct selection tool. That's the tool that's up here in the panel. It's a temporary access. By holding Command, I'm going to deselect. So I'm going to stop here for just a second, and I'm going to look at this curve. We got a little bit of an issue here. So I have my pen tool. Nothing is held down. I don't have my mouse. Nothing's on my mouse. I'm not touching the mouse. I'm not touching anything on the keyboard. I'm going to put my finger, I use my thumb here, on the left Command key on my keyboard, right next to my space bar. I'm going to select this point over here. And now, while that's selected, I'm going to let go for just 1 second. I don't have any keys selected, nothing's held down. I'm going to hold down Option, and it gives me temporary access, again, to this tool, the Anchor Point tool, inside the submenu for the pen tool. I'm going to hold down my Option key, and I'm going to drag. And you can see an anchor coming off the other side. Now we got a lot of issues here, and this is normal. It takes a lot of experience. I'm still working on it myself, trying to use this tool correctly. Let's see, we'll put that back in there and we'll zoom in. So I'm going to hold down Command and Spacebar. That will allow me to zoom in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset that for right now. I'm going to pull this. Aha, I see. All right. So I'm going to take this handle. I'm going to start here, and I'm actually going to start over. To start over, if you hold down your Option key, you click on the point, no handles or anything, you just click on the point, it'll reset as if it had no handles. So it'll retract the handles and pull them back into the point by using temporarily your Option key while using that pen tool. So Option, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out. I'm going to hold down my Shift key. If they're equal on both sides, and you can see this came out this side. What happened was I pulled some of this point back out, some of the line back out. So I'm going to hold down my Option key, grab that handle, hold down my Shift key so I make sure it stays horizontal, and pull it back over to the handle. Just put it right over top. And that looks pretty good. There's a few little issues. I think those are redraw issues on Adobe Illustrator. The best thing that I can do here is to temporarily select my direct selection tool, which is Command. Click on that point that I want to affect. Hold down my Shift key and slide this point over. I think it just needs to be a little bit closer to the edge. The other thing that people do, and I think this may work, is we can delete this point. Maybe it's not even needed. So what we'll do is we will, having our pen tool selected, I'm not holding anything on the keyboard, I'm going to mouse over top of that point. And if you can see this, let's zoom in a little bit. When I mouse over, my pen tool has a minus sign. It means I'm going to delete that. So when I delete it, it's going to look like that. And in this case, I see kind of what's going on. We went from a curve, but it wasn't horizontal across here. You can see it kind of curves in here before it goes into the main part of the curve. What I will do is I will hold down Option again. That'll give me temporary access. I will pull out a handle point like this, or handle, and I'm going to start selecting these handles and just moving them around. See how I can move them with my mouse? I can grab the handles and straighten them out on the curve and have them follow the lines a little bit. So I can pull this in and down a little bit and kind of line it up with the middle. And if it's not following it perfect, it's probably to do with the handle on the other side, so we can shorten that up. We can pull this one down a little bit more. And as we make these fine little adjustments, you can see things are starting to get a lot better. So it's just a series of fine adjustments that we're making. I'm going to temporarily use my direct selection tool by holding Command. So if you remember these things from this lesson, and we'll move on, remember these. While your pen tool is selected, you can hold down your Option key. It gives you temporary access to the Convert Anchor Point tool. If you hold down your Command key, it gives you temporary access to the Direct Selection tool. You can use that to deselect. You can use it to select a point. While holding down the Command key, you can select around. You can even select handles the same way. There's a lot of things you can do, and it really just takes some play and just experimentation with the tool as you're using it. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next lesson. I just wanted to show you really quickly how that works. Those quick keyboard commands, Option and Command, and how that gives you temporary access to things. We'll cover a little bit more in the next video and deal with points and handles and paths further.